So today we have our seventh speaker in our What After BAMS webinar series. In this series, we have tried to bring together people to you from different professional domains who have a BAMS and who have excelled in that very different professional milieu, let us say, either as physicians, researchers, scientists, administrators. We wanted to tell you with this particular webinar series that your BAMS degree is not merely a tool to practice Ayurvedic medicine, but in fact a fundamental grounding that will allow you to explore many different types of professional activities. So this was something that had come up during Dr. Pensey's talk. He was speaking about how, as a clinician, when he has to practice in India versus when he has to practice abroad, he has to keep in mind a different way of interacting with his patients. He had mentioned how he realized a little later that much of the knowledge that his patients abroad had came from the books of Dr. Vasant Lad or Frawley or from, I think, I forget the name of this gentleman. So he had talked at that time and said that you need to have a slightly different style when you're practicing abroad. And I'm very happy that Dr. Shyam here has agreed to come and speak to us precisely about this particular subject. Since he will give his own career trajectory, I will not go over that. All I'd like to mention and say is that Dr. Shyam has a global presence. He will tell us today what it is to take Ayurveda from the country of its birth to people. And, you know, we talk about Desha so much in Ayurveda. So it's a different type of people altogether, a different regulatory environment. And he has experience practicing in the UAE as well as in North America and teaching in North America as well. So I think he will give us a very different flavor today on how we can take Ayurveda to the international level. Welcome, Dr. Shyam. It's a pleasure to have you. Over to you.
Thank you, Mika, and namaste. Namaste to the future practitioners of Ayurveda. Hope I'm audible, Mika. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. We are almost 16 of us, right? I believe, most of you are either BAMS graduates or MD graduates. See, actually, the first thing, I would love to tell all of you, I really feel, proud of meeting, the newly coming out BAMS and MD holders, because according to me, I can vouch that you have taken, a very noble and one of the most rewarding profession, Ayurveda. I can vouch for that. See, once you practice, Ayurveda, you will see, a lot of things, which we have studied also. Kvachit dharmaha. Sometimes, it is our duty. Kvachit maitri. We get, a lot of friendships. And karma abhyasaha. We get, a lot of life experience. We get a lot of well-wishers. And kvachit yashaha. We make, name and fame. And money will also follow. And beyond all this, I want to tell you that this journey of choosing Ayurveda, it is a life-transforming experience for me and for all of you. We all, will have a deepened wisdom, when we learn more and more about Ayurveda. But only one thing, we need to put our heart and soul into it. See, you all, have studied, Charaka Samhita. There is a very celebrated sloka in Charaka Samhita. I remember it is in Kudage Jadishpadam in Sutrasthanam. It says, Shastram Chastrani Salilam Gunadosha Pravartaye Patra Apekshini. Means, the strength of a weapon depends on the warrior who uses it. The purity of the water depends on the vessel in which it's kept. The efficacy of a science depends on the person who uses it. So therefore, the efficacy and the purity and the strength of Ayurveda is going to be dependent on you. So that means, we are all, coming with certain kind of responsibilities also towards Ayurveda and to the humankind. And Charaka, continues. He gives a solution also. Adaha, what should we do? He says, Prajnam Chigilsartham Vishodhet. We all talk about, doing, Panchakarma for our patients. Here, Charaka is telling, you need to purify our own prajna. We need to purify our own intellect before treating, not only for treating, it has its application in doing an Ayurvedic business also. See, Meghal, allow me to talk, my education and my career pathway in between, my talk, instead of, talking much about myself, So I did my MD in Shalyatandra, and after that, I was not very happy about, going for the government job. So I went for my business school after my MD in Ayurveda at BITS Pilani. So I remember, the first class about, in the BITS Pilani, I was taught about, the basic functions of a business manager. So the basic definitions was that as a business manager, he or she should know where do we stand, should know where we want to reach or where we need to reach. As a business manager, you should have a team in hand who are trained and motivated. He or she should have a plan A, B, and C. He or she should have a control mechanism, should do planning, organizing, training, budgeting, etc., etc. So I was seriously thinking, why did I come to study this? Because Charaka has, already explained these beautifully, but in the management of disease processes. Like Karanam, Karanam, Karya Yoni, Karyam, Karyaphalam, Desham, he has explained it beautifully in another context. So another area, which I wanted to mention, this year's, Ayurveda Day is, I think it's in November, right? Okay. I remember, the last year's tagline. It was taglined as Ayurveda for everyone, Ayurveda for everyone, and for every day. See, it is an amazing theme and an amazing message. Do you know the global population? It's 8.1 billion people. See, Ayurveda for 8.1 billion people. But in this context, we need to think, connecting, the previous Charaka's quote, are we, the Vaidyas, ready to cater for this 8 billion population? I always believe, there is a big difference between professional excellence and professional efficiency. Professional excellence and professional efficiency. Excellence is the superlative degree of efficiency. I would like to tell, my friend doctors, how, an Ayurvedic practitioner can be professionally excellent. The mantra for that. Number one, knowledge. Without knowledge, he cannot become, professionally excellent. I like to mix it in between some Ayurvedic verses and some management principles. See, anything, everything, it can be examined, in three ways as per Ayurveda. One is with Pratyaksha Pariksha, right? Second is Anumanam, right? But the third thing is very clear. Without, the backing of Aptopadesha, this Pratyaksha Pariksha and Anumana Pariksha doesn't have much of stand. Therefore, what I want to mention, the knowledge is very important. So study more, study more. Every day, it can be a new day. The second thing is about skill. Sometimes, we say, oh, he is skilled by birth. Do you believe in that? Skilled by birth. If I quote, the famous scientist, Thomas Alva Edison, he says, skill is only 1% of inspiration. No, 1% of inspiration and 99% is through perspiration. It's by sweating, by hard work, only, one can become skilled in a profession. See, there are so many, great quotes about this. See, success, it is not about the greatness of a person. It is about consistent hard work. And consistent hard work only leads to success, and greatness might follow. There are a lot of people, who ask me this question. Dr. Shyam, isn't it enough for you? You opened, I have opened, Ayurvedic centers, or I have traveled with Ayurvedic centers in almost 20 countries. So many people, will ask me, can't you stop it? Take some rest. You made, build your career. You have a few businesses. But it's very difficult for me to stop. It's not for, the success, which I make. Because for me, or according to the Winston Churchill, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. But according to him, it is the courage to continue that counts. For me, it's not the courage. It's the passion, to continue that counts. This skill, according to me, it's of different types. One we call it like technical skill. As an Ayurvedic practitioner, we should be able to diagnose a case, should be able to understand, the Vikalpa Samprapti, the Guna Nirupana, and should be able to choose, the right herb, the right treatment, for the right person. This is all, comes to the technical skill aspects of an Ayurvedic practitioner. Second comes the human skill. As a human being, we should be able to connect and communicate with the people around you. Be it your patients, be it your team members, you should have that basic human relation skill. I'm originally, from a small village, in Kollam. It's called Ochura. It's a very small village. We have around 250, 300 households there in that area. I remember, a Vaidya Galanidhi, an old practitioner, who was living in that village in my childhood. So in that household, even if a child sneezes or a grandmother has a knee pain, we all, will go to this Vaidya Galanidhi, this Vaidya. This Vaidya will try his best possible things, to heal us. And there are a few specialists also who lives in that village. And if he is unable to take the case, he will write a small paper, please take care of this patient. And, we go to that specialist. So I remember, going with my dad to that specialist also. Specialist will write, some antibiotics and some medicines. But my dad, was never confident to give those medicines to me. With that specialist prescription, he will come back to this Vaidya asking, Vaidya, can I give this medicine to my son? Only if this Vaidya approves, he doesn't know anything about those antibiotics and all. Only if he approves, then only, my dad is confident to give me those medicines. And this Vaidya, he is a member of, be it a wedding ceremony, or, be it a birthday celebration, or be it a funeral, he's a part of, that village. Very much, connected with each and every household of that village. This was the way, how Ayurveda was scattered at the primary care level. A beautiful example of, how Ayurveda was at the primary care level. I feel, thereafter, we wanted to become like, the modern practitioners, wearing coat and jacket, keeping the stet around the shoulder and waiting, for the patients to come. So I always, tell my team members, see, I have, in UAE, I have 8 clinics. In Dubai, we have 6, and in Abu Dhabi and Ajman, 1 each. So we have a team of around, 70 doctors and therapists working in UAE right now. So one of the primary instruction, which I give to my team members is that connect with your patients, right? You give the medicines, for a week time, have the courtesy to call and ask, how do you feel? Imagine, we as a patient, we are getting a call, from the doctor. How do you feel? You feel so happy, right? So this human connection, human relation skill is very important, to be a professionally excellent practitioner. The third thing, which I always say, it's about the conceptual skill. Conceptual skill means think out of the box. Think different. And the other thing, mantra, which I say is about the attitude. The attitude of, being patient, polite, placid. This is all very important. See, the possibilities of, Ayurvedic practitioner, there are multiple ways, you can excel in your profession. I know practitioners, BAMS graduates, some of them who work as a clinical research officer, some of them focus on the sports Ayurveda, some of them turning into a medical transcription, some of them becoming like an Ayurveda content writer or, working in some publication divisions, some, who turn into public health management, some turning into wellness consultants, some turning into integrating technology into Ayurveda, the Ayurvedic softwares like, or, again, into Ayurvedic business, cosmetology, lifestyle, stress management, prenatal, postnatal. See, we have, enormous opportunities. See, this globalization, it provides enormous opportunities, for any Ayurvedic Vaidya. And I feel, only we will be blamed, if we lose such opportunities. And keep it in mind that it says, a very severe disorders, it can vanish like an imaginary city, if you are well versed and if you are a good physician. On the other side, the simplest disorders, it can aggravate, but it is all based on the learned and the ignorant physicians. So we're gonna be responsible for the above consequences. And something else, which I like to talk, briefly about is about the the transition or the change of the healthcare delivery system, which is happening across the globe. In old times, it was more like a supply-driven model. Whatever, the hospitals and the doctors are giving, without talking, without questioning, go eat it, that's it. Now from there, it has moved to more of a consumer-driven model. Now the patients will decide, where to go, whom to consult, whether it is Ayurveda or Chinese medicine or homeopathy. So please keep it in mind that Ayurveda is recognized as a medical system in several countries like UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Malaysia, Mauritius, so many countries, it is approved. But the government have opened the gates not only to Ayurveda, they have opened into Unani, Chinese medicine, homeopathy, etc. So now the patients will decide which system to choose from the basket of different medical systems, available in front of them. So we should be ready to cater the complete potential of Ayurveda to the patient. Gimmicks, false promises, incomplete service delivery, I feel, they will make negative impacts rather than, any benefits for Ayurveda or for us. Mika, how should be the pattern? Should I stop right now and take some questions?
I think it would be nice to hear what your typical work day is like. And if you could just revisit your career trajectory also, how you ended up being a business owner as well as a Vaidya.
See, I took a different, career path after my MD, after my Shailatantra. I joined with, turned, more into a business side of Ayurveda. So I got an opportunity to practice, to function as a wellness consultant in UAE. That was the first entry, which I got. A small job. I remember, my first job was hardly around 20,000 rupees or 25,000 Indian rupees, when I was in UAE. But landing here, I realized that Ayurveda is not a recognized system of medicine here. I was quite disappointed, did I choose a wrong step? But I knew that, there could be a way. So I started, creating some public awareness about Ayurveda. That was the only way, to get some patients or to get some recognition for Ayurveda. So I started, approaching, some medias and newspapers, whether can I start writing something about Ayurveda. I got a small opportunity in one of the leading newspaper, Gulf News. So I remember the editor, Ms. Malavika was the editor at that time. So I wanted to write about Ayurveda. She asked me, doctor, write about hair fall and acne, right? Now, my ego was, really hurt. I studied for 8.5 years, and you want me to write about, acne and hair fall. But she was very elder, so I listened to her. And but because people doesn't know, what is Vada, Pitta, and Kapha. It's an alien language. So I had to communicate, in their language, step down to their level, and then, bring them up. But keep it in mind, I continued that column for the Gulf News for 18 years, every week, writing about Ayurveda. See, what I wanted to do is, to create that public awareness. Once you create, the public awareness, the policymakers, will listen to the public demand. So within 2 years, I received a call, from the Ministry of Health, and, to appear for an exam. And I was lucky to be the first licensed Ayurvedic practitioner in the country. See, again, I'm telling is about, the consistency and about the hard work. No, I will share, some more experience, about practicing Ayurveda outside the country. Like 4 years before, I got an opportunity to open a small wellness center in Egypt. So again, more into the wellness side of Ayurveda. So I brought the table, I brought the trained staff. Then I faced a challenge. Import of Ayurvedic medicines are restricted to Egypt, right? So what will I do? How will I practice, Ayurveda without the Dravya? But, I had something in mind that, if it is among the Chadushpada, Vaidya is the most important thing. If the Vaidya is good, you will find ways. I happened to visit, the spice market in Cairo. So each and every shop, I went and asked, the Sanskrit names, botanical names, English names of all the basic Indian herbs available. They didn't know any of them. And then to one shop, I went and asked, do you have any medicines for kidney stone? It was to my shocking surprise, they brought in Gokshura, right? And then I asked, what do you give for joint pain? I got Rasna from there. Then Ashwagandha came. So I could identify, almost 150 Indian herbs available in the Cairo spice market. So I set a kitchen. Now I make, made in Egypt, Triphala and Trigadu there. See here, we really need to think, critically about, why Ayurveda couldn't get its roots in another country other than the Indian subcontinent, before this century. Because several times, what works in India, as you rightly mentioned, madam, what works in India might not work outside. The difference in Desha plays a role. I wanted to explain, a case, a patient, came to me with heavy rectal bleeding, heavy anal bleeding. So I checked his perennial examination and I sent him for some investigations. Nothing is wrong, there is no minor, small hemorrhoids, nothing major. And but this bleeding was profuse and continuing. So I was asking this guy, what do you do, different from what you used to practice in terms of lifestyle? He said, he is eating long pepper every day for COVID protection, as suggested, by some of the doctors in Kerala. See, Kerala, that time it was a raining time, it is an Anupadesya. And here right now, it is 50 degrees centigrade. Imagine, taking long pepper every day in a 50 degrees centigrade. Vakpada has, actually written the Ashtanga Hridaya, the summer Rudujariya, just for the people, who live in Dubai. He says, Tishnamshu, Adidishnamshu. That means, every day Kapha is decreasing and Vada is increasing day by day. And, it is a Pitta dominated place. Imagine, consuming long pepper, here every day. And here, again, the Rudujariya in India, 6 Rudus. Where is 6 Rudus in Dubai? Only 2 Rudus. One is summer and not summer. Right? But you should know how to formulate, a Rudujariya based on the geographical location. The thread is in the Sutrasthana. It says, Ushnagunopahidaha, Rukshadeha, Vayo Sanjayamavadeyanti. Ushnagunam together with Rukshagunam brings in Chayam to Vada. When the Shidaguna comes, it gives Pragobam to Vada. So if you are able to sense, that kind of Guna Nirupana in terms of the Rudu, you can make, your own Rudujariya. I think, I moved from there. So just to brief, what I do, I have my own clinics in UAE. And I have 2 brands. One is Dr. Shyam's Ayurvedic Center, which is in the mid-segment market. I have a brand named Back to Roots, which is in the upscale market. I have a small Ayurvedic healing retreat in Kerala. Then I have a company in the name Natura Wellbeing. We open clinics in different countries in association with local investors. I open clinics in places like areas which you cannot even imagine. I opened clinics in Nigeria. I opened in Djibouti. If you look at that, the neighboring countries, for Djibouti is Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, etc. So you might think, how can, you practice Ayurveda in such countries? There is a beautiful story, once, a shoemaker, the story, a shoemaker sent, 2 salesmen to Africa with instruction, to make a survey of the market. Within, the first few days, the first salesman concluded to the owner that African potential for shoe sales is nil. He said, here, they all go barefoot. No one wears a shoe. So we are not able to sell, even a single pair of shoes. The next day, the second salesman came. He was absolutely excited and eager to speak to the boss. He said, boss, it is fantastic. No one here wears the shoe. No one sells the shoe. We are going to sell, 1,000 pair of shoes, in this African market. See, it is about, the attitude. Mika, allow me to stop here now, and I will take any questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So usually just we ask students to put their questions in the chat box.